I'd like you to take a moment to picture a place where you feel a deep sense of connection. The familiar smells, sights, and sounds, the people, all of it feels like home. It holds you, it reminds you who you are. Now imagine that place being destroyed. The community that gave you grounding and identity disappears, leaving you untethered, searching for a sense of home in a city that wasn't built with you in mind, or worse, built to exclude you. That's what happened to the nucleus of Vancouver's first Black community, Hogan's Alley. My name is Djaka Blais, and I'm the Executive Director of Hogan's Alley Society. Tonight, I want to talk about the power of place and how philanthropy can help communities rebuild belonging that lasts for generations. For decades, Hogan's Alley was the heart of Vancouver's Black community. People built businesses, raised families, gathered in restaurants and the city's first Black church, and they looked out for one another. When the neighborhood was raised in the late 1960s to build viaducts, it wasn't just homes that were destroyed. It was social infrastructure, the networks of trust, culture, and care that make community possible. The story of Hogan's Alley isn't only about displacement. It's about what happens when systems fail to recognize the social and cultural value of place. Today, as cities grapple with affordability, displacement, and inequality, we have a chance to do something different, to see placemaking not only as design, but as justice, memory, and belonging. That's the story I carry with me in my work. At Hogan's Alley Society, we're working to rebuild the lost sense of community on the very block where it once stood and across Greater Vancouver and its area. Our vision includes affordable housing, cultural center, small businesses, and childcare, and other amenities for our community. But more than buildings, we're rebuilding something deeper: shared identity, cultural continuity, and belonging. Our mission isn't just to rebuild what was lost, it's to reimagine what belonging looks like for future generations. We're planning for the next 100 years. We ask, what do we want our descendants to inherit from us a century from now? That's what culturally informed placemaking means, when people who have been historically excluded have the power to shape the environments they live, gather, and thrive. And this is where philanthropy has a vital role to play. Philanthropy has the power to move beyond charity, to act as a civic partner, and catalyst in how communities rebuild themselves. When philanthropy invests in placemaking, it restores more than infrastructure. It restores agency and self-determination. It enables communities to design solutions grounded in their own knowledge, values, and lived experiences. Imagine philanthropy not as the final donor in a project's funding stack, but as the first believer, the one who sees the potential of a community vision before anyone else does. Philanthropic investment can support community-led design, fund innovation that public dollars can't risk, and strengthen social cohesion through art, storytelling, and capacity building. In this sense, philanthropy is not simply funding projects, it's funding belonging. Because belonging is not an abstraction. It lives in the spaces where people gather and in the stories we preserve. As Bell Hooks reminds us, belonging is a place where your soul feels at home and where you are embraced just as you are. Rebuilding Hogan's Alley is about creating that kind of home, not just for Black Vancouverites, but for anyone who has ever felt displaced or unseen. And to do this, philanthropy can be more than a funding source. It can be a partner in imagination. It can provide what few other systems can: patient capital, resources that honor community timelines, not market timelines. It can take the long view, supporting plans that envision not just the next grant cycle, but the next century. I know this because I worked in philanthropy and as a grant maker for nearly 2 decades in government and in community foundations. I've seen its power and I've seen its limits. Too often, philanthropy holds the purse, but not the humility to listen. But I've also seen what happens when funders approach their role differently, when they see themselves not as saviors, but as partners in the work. I was mentored by people who believe that grant making could be a bridge, connecting community wisdom with resources and networks. They taught me that philanthropy, at its best, is an act of relationship building, not control. Over time, I've come to believe that the purpose of philanthropy is not to help. It is to redistribute power, and that starts with trust. Trust-based philanthropy means moving money faster and at a scale that meets the size of the problem. It means providing long-term, unrestricted support because communities know best how to use resources to build resilience. It also means acknowledging that philanthropic wealth was often built from systems that exploited Black and Indigenous labor and land, and then acting to repair that harm. This is about narrative repair too, moving from stories of deficit to stories of brilliance. Too often, philanthropy asks marginalized communities to perform their pain to justify funding. But our communities are not broken. We are creative, we are leading. Philanthropy's role is not to fix us, it is to fuel us, to see Black and racialized communities not as recipients of charity, but as philanthropists and leaders in our own right. There are centuries of wisdom philanthropy can learn from. Indigenous potlatch systems, Caribbean susu, African rotating saving circles, all rooted in reciprocity and love for community. Imagine if Canadian philanthropy reflected that same spirit, abundance for all, not for a few. At Hogan's Alley Society, we're building a 100-year legacy rooted in Black leadership, cultural restoration, and justice. But this isn't only about one neighborhood. It's about reclaiming the right to belong for everyone. Philanthropy can help us get there by offering patient, flexible capital, by trusting communities to lead, by funding belonging, not just projects. Because when we build for the long term, for those who will come after us, we move from charity to legacy. And that, to me, is the true purpose of philanthropy, to make visible the invisible architecture of belonging, to use power for change, and to ensure that a century from now, our descendants will have a place where their souls feel at home. Thank you.